What page? We're going to be in Psalms 103. Psalms 103. I was saying in Sunday school this morning that Psalms are some of the toughest things for me to preach because there's usually not much context given. It's just a list of Psalms that were written, and there's a bunch of them, and so you don't always know the background. And so it was really strange when I got ready to do the Sunday school lesson that it was also a psalm. And then we came back and are doing this one. We know how valid they are because Jesus quoted the Psalms often, which was pretty important. And how do you quote Psalms to decide what God's want? Well, what are Psalms? Psalms to God, what are they? They're usually praise. Are there a deep, troubled time that somebody's going through and they write things about? I know some of the songs that I used to write were in the deepest, hardest times. Every now and then there was a song of joy and a song of things going on. But one of the things that happens is when we get in the deepest trouble, who do we reach to? We reach to God. I hope we do. Amen? Who stronger can you reach to? There is none that's stronger. I understand Jackson got a t-shirt with all the superheroes on it. Right in the middle was Jesus. And it's great that they recognize. You may have seen those things where they're all talking about the different ones who saved the world comically or in comic books. And by the way, Stan Lee passed away, the one who created a bunch of those this last week. But in the middle, they're asking Jesus, how did you save the world again? And how did he do it, of course? On the cross.
He's in the paper this morning.
Is he? Jackson is?
Front page.
Front page. Praise God.
Some kind of donation or something, some kind of drive they did. I don't know, but he's on the front row with his hand waving.
Good to hear. Yes. Wow.
I slammed it shut. She knew what was happening, but she knows what those skills, pain skills do to you.
But you had quite a vision, didn't you, during that time? Who can we turn to in the toughest times? And this is said to be written by King David. He was one of the main writers for the book of Psalms. He was a talented guy, and he loved the Lord, but he fell short, didn't he? Did David need a Savior? We all need a Savior, every one of us. When do we need a Savior? Every day. And if we forget that, how hard is it to be grateful? If we forget that we need a Savior, how hard is it to be grateful to Him? If we forget that we meet so well so often, if we forget that people starve, don't have opportunities to get food, are we thankful for food, or do we just say, yeah, it's dinner time again, I'll go eat again? One of the reasons we say the blessed is to remember that God's provided heaven. Sometimes God's provided too well. I don't know about for you, but for me, just too well. And so Psalms would come out of that. So here's one that King David wrote, is considered to be in his older age. And let's see what God spoke for him again. It says, bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that it was in me. Bless His holy name. The modern translations say, praise the Lord with everything that I've got. And so the question this morning, are we a blessing back to God? Are we a blessing back to God? That's a big question. Hopefully we are. And we need to ask ourselves how. Somebody else entitled this particular Psalms, Job Benefits for Being a Christian. because so many are listed there. Things to praise God for, things to be grateful for, and try to bless God back. Not that we can repay, not that it's about repaying, but it's about being grateful. So let's pray and get started with this song. Heavenly Father, thank you for loving us. Thank you for your word. I praise you, God, and ask that, Father, you show us how to love you back better. You are so worthy. And Father, sometimes we fall so short. Thank you for being here in times of trouble and in times of joy. Thank you for being here in times of comfort, Father, in times for needing of healing. Thank you for being here, Lord, even when we're not looking at you. Forgive us for those things. Father, and not just forgive us, but change our hearts, Lord, that we would love you appropriately. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Bless the Lord, oh my soul. Can you do that? We spoke this morning in the Sunday school. Who can bless the Lord or praise the Lord with all of their soul? Isn't that sad? I want to. But to give up of self that much. Somehow we tend to hold on to things, to insecurities, or to shameful things that we don't want others to see, or to things that we really enjoy doing a lot, and we just hope God isn't watching it when we continue. All of those kind of things can happen in a human being's life. Do you agree or disagree? It happens. And we could pretend that it doesn't happen, but then that would make us deceitful, wouldn't it? How often should we go to God for not just forgiveness, but also asking Him to help strengthen us so that we don't?
Once a day, every day, all day long.
Once a day, every day, 24 hours a day. That would be like being in constant prayer with God. That would be like considering Him walking beside you and walking with you every day, and to be such a friend that He wouldn't leave you or forsake you. Is there a God like that anywhere? We have one, amen? Is He worthy to be blessed with all our soul and all that is within us? And bless His holy name. Remember, name is not just writing on a piece of paper. It's His whole character. His name is His character. It's who He is. And that's so important to us. He repeats that line and says, bless the Lord, O my soul. Now, is this vain repetition? We've been talking about the Lord's Prayer, and people say, the Bible says, don't pray in vain repetition. What does that mean? He's just repeated the same line twice. It's a song. We can repeat it. It's okay in a song. How about this? What if you mean them both times? What if you mean them both times? What if we mean a prayer? We can say the Our Father prayer many times we want, as long as every word means something to us and we're not just chanting. Amen? There's a difference between chanting to try to get God to say something. If I say it 27 times, God will bless me more. That's not how it works. I can remember repeating the 23rd Psalms over and over, and then all of a sudden it broke open to me. It just broke open. I suddenly understood it, because it finally registered in my mind. It wasn't chanting, it was seeking information, right? Or seeking a directive. And here, God, I want to bless you. I want to praise you with all my soul. And it says, and forget not His benefits. Anybody ever had a job where they gave you your benefit package? Was it big enough? Not particularly. But you know what I'm talking about? What's the benefit package of being saved? Eternal life. When does it begin? As soon as you're born again, as soon as you make Jesus your Lord, your eternal life begins. Not your body's eternal life, but who you are. Not what carries you, but who you are. It begins. It says, forget not His benefits. What's one of them? It says, one is He forgives all your iniquities. That means when we mess up. Now, if we play with Him, God, I'm doing this one. You're going to forgive this one too, aren't you? I'm really going to enjoy it while you're forgiving it. What do you think? Do you think that gets very far with God? Do we respect God at all if we try to play that game? Do we fear the Lord? Now listen, should Christians fear the Lord? I love my dad. But when he was mad, I was a little afraid. If I'd done something wrong, if I kept the truck out too late or done something else, one time he had me go drain the oil in the old car that he had. When I came back in and found out that I drained the transmission and not the oil, he was not happy. I feared my dad that day. I really feared he was disappointed and also his chastisement. But I wasn't afraid that he was going to break my arm or my leg or anything like that. Should Christians fear the Lord? Listen, if I'm a Christian and I'm playing over here in the wrong place, should I fear His chastisement? How much chastisement will He give me? As much as I need. If the more hard-headed I am, the harder it's got to be. Right? So if I play those games, Lord, thanks for forgiving my iniquities. What's this one? Same thing. And just not very smart. Right? I should fear that particular chastisement. Not that he hates me. He loves me too much to allow me to go towards destruction. Right? He loves me too much if I belong to him. Who heals all your diseases. So far, did you know that God who's healed all my diseases are made unbearable? And one day he's going to call me home from this body and from this earth. But meanwhile, who's kept me going all this time? God has. And so that's something to be thankful, something to praise him with all our heart and soul. Here's an interesting one. Who redeems your life from destruction. Now the word redeems, they tell me in Hebrew, and I have to take their word for it since I don't speak it, is goel. And if you look up the word goel, you know what it means? It talks about the tradition of the day where a next of kin, somebody closest relative to you, if you got yourself in debt, or if you had a problem, your kinsman redeemer could go and make restitution or buy you back or bring you where you were supposed to be. Fix your name. Any injustice that was done, your kinsman redeemer could go do that. That's so interesting than just the word redeemer. Why? Well, a redeemer might be somebody I know or I don't know. But we're talking about a kinsman redeemer. Someone who stepped down, someone who became my brother by joint heir. Right? Someone who came and was my closest kin. And said, I'm here to buy my family back. Did you know you joined the family of God when you made Jesus your Lord? You joined the family of God. And so see how intimate it is? It's more than just a white knight coming in on a charger and saving us. It's what? Our kinsmen, our family coming to get us. So he redeems your life from destruction. He crowns you with loving kindness and tender mercies. He crowns you. The Bible talks about crowns. And crowns are interesting. Our eternal salvation, you can't earn. Amen? Can you work and get eternal salvation? No. It's not of works. Right? By grace we're saved through faith and not of works. We can't brag about that. But crowns can be earned. Everyone except for getting into heaven. And the Bible talks about these treasures that we're to lay up and all that. And he says he offers things for well done, my good and faithful servant. Which means that we what? We become a blessing to the Lord. He says, go talk to this person, pray for this person. Give to this cause. Whatever your role is, lowly or prominent, whatever it is, doing it as unto the Lord. Earns crowns. How long do the crowns last? They're eternal. They're positions in heaven. There are all kinds of things. They're able to pay, not pay back, but to say thank you to Jesus. We lay them down at his feet. He says, if you can be trusted here on this earth to do these things, I have special places in heaven that last for eternity. As one preacher said, my job as a pastor is to be sure that you have lots of crowns when you get to heaven, that your treasury is full. You can get to heaven barely, and all eternity we'll look at the ones who did what? Were generally blessings to God. We'll still be in heaven, but wouldn't that be a shame to say, I could have been here, and I chose here. Still in heaven, still part of God's family. You won't be jealous, but you'll recognize, why did I waste some time on this earth? He talks about that. He says, who crowns you with loving kindness and tender mercies. Loving kindness and tender mercies. Loving kindness. Does that sound like tough love to you? The Bible says fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, kindness, goodness, and gentleness. Loving kindness. Tender mercies. He's God Almighty. He's going to rule with an iron rod, and yet for his people he gives what? Tender mercies and loving kindness. Do we fear the Lord? We fear him as the Bible tells us how to fear him. We should be afraid of his chastisement. It will be enough. You will not be glad that you got it if it's going to be corrected. Amen? And yet, have we been chastised for everything we've done wrong? Have we been punished for everything we've done wrong? Tender mercies. This mercy is not getting the punishment that we deserve. Amen? He satisfies our mouth with good things. And people say mouth is not necessarily the best translation there, but meaning what we need, he will satisfy us with. Remember what he told the woman at the well? You drink of this water, you'll never thirst again. Tell me something. Have you ever found anything that satisfied you all the time? Have you ever found anything? I'm telling you, the second piece of lemon meringue pie usually doesn't satisfy me. Right? Then I have to start saying no to self, and that is not fun. You know what I'm saying? Nothing, the sweetest thing on earth doesn't generally satisfy us completely, but who can? God can. Then it says, so that your youth is renewed like eagles. I found out something interesting about eagles. You know, chickens don't live to be about 9 to 12 weeks old, I think, before Colonel Sanders comes to see them. They have a short longevity. But the birds don't generally live that long. But did you know eagles typically live 20 to 50 years old? I didn't know that. One's recorded in a place in Austria to live up to 103 years old. Wow. And have you ever seen an old eagle fly? Don't know. They all look the same, don't they? They're up there but just floating around doing their thing. And so it's interesting. Your youth will be renewed like an eagle. The eagle doesn't look old. He looks distinguished. Have you ever noticed that? And it's interesting that they chose the eagle for that. Something with longevity. It said, your youth will be renewed like eagles when we what? When we trust in God. Who gets old before their time? Worriers. People who run from God. It's exhausting to run from God. People constantly wrestle with God instead of letting God win. Right? Anybody been there before? The trophy is not pretty. It's usually stars in different forms. Right? And we get exhausted. And yet, who can renew our strength when we turn to Him? Only He can. You're right. He's a winner. We don't have to let Him win. Surrender to God. The Lord executes righteousness and justice for all who are oppressed. That's pretty important to know. Does God recognize the people who are oppressed?
Yes.
Yes. When does He cover things? In His time. Now, this is interesting. We saw that in a similar Psalm 138, I think we were looking at this morning, that He sees the arrogant, the haughty, but He's near to the humble. One of the scariest things about people who have a lot of stuff, including freedoms or whatever, is we tend to take it for granted. But somebody who doesn't have the freedoms or a lot of stuff tend to do what? Appreciate what they have. And if they can't get it, if we can't get it, who do we turn to? Under oppression. And how often do we turn? Under oppression. More often. Who's make it easier to find God? The oppressed or those who got everything going their way? What if we were oppressed for our 70, and yet it brought us to a position of salvation with Christ for eternity? Could we trust God with that? When Joseph was in prison, could he trust God as he was being oppressed when he was falsely accused? Could he trust God when he was oppressed? When he was betrayed by his kinsmen, his brothers? Could he trust God when he was oppressed? And what could God do with it? The Bible says here, the Lord executes righteousness and justice for all those who are oppressed. When? When we want it? Or when it's the best? At the most opportune time. This is the benefit package of being saved, being a child of God. He says He has made His ways, known His ways to Moses. I thought about that one. We just finished the study of Brother Matt's in the book of Genesis. And all I can say, getting to the end of it is, wow. I had no idea how much. I know there's a lot in Genesis. You know, most of us know so much about Genesis. God created and all that. But wow, how much of Jesus was in Genesis? How much intricacies and how much did God foretell all through Genesis, all through the place? You know, Sherry and I got to go and see the ark up there in northern Kentucky, and you get to picture what was written about it in Genesis. It's just a model of what it was, but it's a scale model. And to see the scale of what God could do through His people. And it wasn't just Genesis that God gave to Moses. He gave the first 5 books of the Bible. The Exodus, about people who were oppressed for, 400 years or so, and then came out from under it. And God knew they were going to oppression, but He knew that it would create a people of God, where more people would be in heaven. It wasn't wasted. And who was going to correct the injustice? He did. It's like they robbed the place when they went without robbing the place. The people gave them everything. And judgment came on the place that was left. God takes care of all that. The other thing about Moses is he gave his 10 Commandments. And if you read the 10 Commandments, half of them are to God and half of them are to our neighbors as to ourselves. Have you ever looked at that? Not to have false idols, not to keep the Sabbath, keep it holy, not to misuse His name and all that. That's all to God. What happens? What happens if God's not the biggest thing in our life? If God's not the biggest thing in our life, then the problems of the day will be. Amen? The illnesses, the brokenheartedness, all those things will be the biggest things. If God is not the biggest thing in our life, then something else is going to take God's place as the biggest thing, and they're not loving. Right? They become weaknesses instead of strength. The Lord is our strength. Amen? And we're to focus on Him. We're to bless Him with all our heart and all of our soul and all our might, to praise Him that way. And so He tells us that as He gave the Word through Moses to us. And then, if He's the biggest thing in our life, then we start doing the things He says to do in the other 5 commandments. Loving our neighbor as ourselves. And if we get all of that right, life would be much better. But how hard is it? Who can do it on their own? Wouldn't it be great if God would stick by us closer than a brother so we could keep up with all that stuff? Because it's impossible for us by ourselves. Oh yeah, He does, doesn't He? He's faithful. He's present. I stand amazed at His presence that He's here. The Lord is merciful and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in mercy. How many people have been given the idea that God is mad at you all the time for all your misdeeds? Is that preached out there? I've seen it. How about this one? That God's okay with anything you do or anything wrong. It's okay. God's happy. He's indulgent. He's like one that just, whatever you want, kid, go ahead. That's not God either. Amen? Who is our God? He's a loving Father. Angry is not His first disposition. How many of us get angry when somebody mistreats our kids? How many of us get angry when our kids mistreat themselves? And it's usually out of frustration. God is not frustrated, but He's brokenhearted. And child, come back away from that. Don't do that again. By the way, I only drained the transmission once. Next time it was the oil pan, like it was supposed to be. Just enough chastisement that I didn't do that anymore. He will not always strive with us. What does that mean? When He's correcting us, He won't ride us with it forever. He won't keep it on top of us forever. The Bible says not to provoke our children, not to goad them or push them so much in the same old way that they rebel. Who knows how to do that? Only God. And so when we seeking to raise kids, we got to know how hard and how soft. Right? And He says He's not going to ride us forever. Not going to strive with us forever on those things. Nor will He keep His anger forever. Once it's done, it's done. How do we know? Well, thankfully He's going to tell us that. He has not dealt with us according to our sins. Or how many of us would be here if He took care of us all the way through? I mean, when I say took care of us, if He had punished us all the way through for every sin, how many of us would still be here? He's redeemed us from the what? From the pit. From the abyss. We would have nothing to look forward to if it wasn't for our God. You want a thankful heart? We need to recognize what to be thankful for. What to be thankful from. It says He's not going to deal with us for all of our sins, or where would we be? Nor punishment according to our iniquities. He hasn't hit us for everyone. Does that mean, oh boy, we get away with a few? No. It grieves God. It breaks His heart. It puts us in a place not to receive His blessings. For as the heavens are high above the earth, so great is His mercy towards those who fear Him. How far away is the sun? 93 million light years, is that right? Is it miles? Okay, I thought it was 93 million miles. Okay. It's a long way. You have to have good mileage to get there, will you? And there's no service station. But back then, whenever this was written, do people have an idea what 93 million miles would look like? That's a lot of cubits, isn't it? Cubits from here to here. You know, they would have no idea. So, in far as they're concerned, it's infinity. So we write this, it said, so as the heavens are high above the earth, so great is His mercy. That means not getting the punishments we deserve. Does it mean we got away with something? No, it means He forgave. He forgave. Towards those who fear Him, no, that's pretty important. We're in a, especially them, we're in a covenant relationship. You and I are in a new covenant relationship with Him. We talk about that every time we take the Lord's Supper. But they were in a covenant. And so, who are the ones who get His blessings? Yeah, once who feared Him, the ones who respected Him. Not the ones that said, what can I get away with and I'm okay. But the ones that said, I don't want to disappoint my God. I don't want to trigger His chastisement. Now, it's loving chastisement, it still don't feel. How many of you felt loved whenever your folks were chastising you? I didn't feel loved at those moments, but I was being loved as my parents stopped me in a loving way, not too much, and usually not too little, to be sure I didn't do that again, whatever it was that was genuinely wrong. Our parents are not perfect, but our God is, and He knows how much. Listen, be in fear of His chastisement. Don't play with it. Amen? It's not, you won't enjoy it. He knows exactly the things that would make us come to grips with Him. I think I've told you before that when I was playing music in the wrong places and felt God's call, I needed something that would make sure that I knew what He was wanting me to do and also get through my hard head. None of y'all have a stubborn hard head, I'm sure. But I did, so I told God, please break my guitar. And it was a 1968 Gibson 335. You think I knew that guitar well and appreciated what it was and all that? Cherry condition. You'd see Chuck Berry playing one when he'd goose step or duck walk across the stage, whatever he did, you know. And sure enough, Leesville, little club, bass player kicked it off the stand, fell and split the neck. Now, it would have been much better to say, okay, God, I'm not doing that no more, instead of losing that wonderful thing. But you know what? It was well worth it. It was well worth it, you know, for what God did. Anyway, His mercy is great. How far does He separate us from that sin? Instead of riding us with it and keeping it on us all the time and all that, as far as the east is from the west. We've talked about that before. You can only go so far north, and then you're coming around south again, aren't you? But you know, you can go west and never quit going west. Just keep going around and around the world. And you can go east and keep going east and just keep going around and around the world. In other words, how far away does He cast those? Once He's got them covered. Never deal with them again. The Bible says love keeps no record of wrong. He chooses to do that for us. As a father pities his children. Look, we don't like the word pity. We're too proud. Let's put it another way. Has compassion. Watching the little one walking and at that toddler stage. Do you know why they call them toddlers? How many of you remember Weebles? They wobble, but they don't fall down. Well, little ones fall down. The problem is if they don't fall down, they'll never learn to walk. I went ice skating one time. I went sliding on the ice one time with these funny shoes on. And I fell one time. And I kept sliding on the ice for another 30 or 40 minutes. I didn't fall again. You know why? I didn't enjoy the experience at all. And so I was much more careful as I kept going around. What do we learn when we fall? I'd rather not fall. Amen? We learn that. But when we fall, how hard is it for a parent not to go want to pick that child up and take care of them and baby them a little while and comfort them and all that kind of stuff? It's pretty hard. What happens if you never let them fall? They never learn to walk. But you know, while we're falling on this earth in this human body, while we're messing up, God has compassion. Pities us, His children. And we can fall for a lot of wrong things, and sometimes He backs us and lets us fall so that we will learn. The trick is to learn. Amen? And if we don't, then we have to go to the next step. But God has compassion. He's not looking down laughing and making fun. He's looking down and allowing and doing the best because of His great love and compassion for you and for me. He knows our frame. He remembers that we're dust. He knows we have our weaknesses. As for man, his days are like the grass, the flower of the field, and so he flourishes for a little while. How long does it last? How long do the flowers of the field? Not long ago there were yellow flowers across fields everywhere. And then what happens? Then they're gone. Then if you go hunting out there, you can see those kind of faded yellow petals laying on the ground and all, but they're not there anymore. There's some old dry stems where they used to be. God knows exactly where we're at, and while we think, hey, we're 70 or this many years, we've got a long time and all that kind of stuff, in the course of eternity, how long is 70 years? On a timeline of infinity, it's forever to forever. How long would 70 years look? You would have to get a microscope to find it. And He knows that that's how much time we got. And yet He still loves us. And He offers us all that much more. He offers us the rest of infinity, doesn't He? He has compassion on us because He recognizes we're in a limited time and space as far as our time to come to know Him and appreciate Him. It says, but the mercy of the Lord is from everlasting to everlasting on those who fear Him. One more time, it's a covenant relationship. He loves us all, but He can only bless those. Let's talk about Christians. He would love everyone to be saved. Let's just talk about Christians. If we are saved, if we've made Jesus Lord of our life, we've done what it says in Romans 10:9, confess that He's our Lord, believe in our heart God raised Him from the dead, we're saved. Okay? But what happens? Saved, but if we go the wrong way, are we going to be in a place of blessing? No more than a lost person. It's going to rain on the just and the unjust. We talked last Sunday in the book of Luke about the different soils. You remember the seed would fall on the hard ground and wouldn't at all germinate and produce fruit? And then it would fall on the really thin layer, and about the time it would start to take root, the wind of the sun had come out, and the wind had come just blowing away. Never did get rooted into salvation with the Lord. But then you come to two other soils. The last one says they found rich soil, and they did real well and produced 100. But then you find that other group that was so caught up with the thistles and the thorn bushes and whatever else, the cares of this life, as Jesus explained it, that they never produced. They were still alive in Him, but they never produced. They were never in a place God could bless them. They still tried to straddle that line between living on earth and God, what can I get away with and still get to heaven? So they were still part of salvation, but they were not part of His blessing, His usefulness on earth. So you can see there it says, the mercy of the Lord is from everlasting to everlasting on those who fear Him, who recognize who He is. Because if you recognize who He is, what happened every time an angel or Jesus appeared into a place where He wasn't expected? What's the first thing they had to say to Him? Be not afraid. Right? We should be that way all the time because He's always here. On those who fears Him and His righteousness to His children's children. He says He's got blessings and He can pass that on because we get to carry the message to our kids and our kids' kids. By the way, if you have that opportunity, use it as much as you can. The world will not tell them about Jesus. To such who keep His covenant, here we go again. To such that follow Him and respect Him and honor Him in everything we do in our life. To those who remember His commandments to do them. And how great is our God? They all run a song. How great is our God? The Lord has established His throne in heaven. The one we call friend, master, father, Abba, Papa. He's established His throne in heaven, and His kingdom is over all. So look what the songwriter says. Bless the Lord, you angels. Well, that's being kind of almost haughty and all. But he said, wow, what a God we serve. Hey, angels, you too were created. You bless the Lord too. Now on earth, the angels are above us, but in heaven, we'll be above the angels, the Bible teaches. But he said, God's over you just like He's over me. Of course, the angels said the same thing when they would talk to people. Bless the Lord, you angels, who excel in strength, who do His word, heeding the voice of the word. Angels, you too are below the God that loves me, is what they're saying. Bless the Lord, all you his hosts, that's his armies. Now we know the angels are in the army of God, but who else is in the army of God? Who else is called to go out and fight against evil? The church is. What if we're too distracted by the thorns and thistles that it talks about? Say that, that's kind of, I got the church thing checked off, and I don't mean church in a building, I'm talking about being part of the saved people. And so, I'll say a prayer every now and then. I'll be good with the old man. Listen, don't go there. All our heart, all our soul, and all our might. What should be priority in our life? It took me a long time to realize that. There's a song that says, trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to what? Trust and obey. Put him first. He says, bless the Lord, you his armies, you ministers of his who do his pleasures. He's the Lord of all armies. And we get to talk to him. And we get to serve him. Bless the Lord, all his works, in all places of his dominion, which is everywhere. This is bless the Lord, O my soul. Last week was Thanksgiving. Brother Darrell, why are you telling us to thank God again? Breathe. Who gave you that? When should we cease to be thankful? Now, again, we can't repay God for salvation. But we can certainly live a life of gratitude. And who benefits the most? We do. We have to throw away the lies of the world and recognize that we benefit the most by trusting God and allowing him to use us. And not to rebel. Rebelling is kind of like walking on a treadmill. You may be moving a lot, but are you getting anywhere? Earthly. But the earth is going to what? It's going to go away. And all of those works are going to go with it. In fact, way before the earth is gone, that'll be gone. I think it registers on the little thing on the side if you put a battery in it, and your best day ever is going to go away when the battery dies. Right? But what about when we trust God and we do it his way? Eternal rewards. Eternal crowns. Eternal thank you to God. A memorial of our thanks to God is the works he does through us while we're on this earth. Where do you want to be when you get to heaven? Do you also ranch? And here in heaven, great. Sure beats hell. And in fact, it's way better than earth. Great stuff. Or, well done, my good and faithful servant. You trusted me. And I was able to trust you. Are we trusted servants of God? Or are we also raised? Not to be better than anybody else, but to be grateful to God. Amen? If you're born again, if you've made Jesus Lord of your life, can we clip some of those thorns and thistles that keep us from following God so we can see him a lot clearer, not having other priorities in our life? If we can, he can use us more. And it lasts forever. And for those who haven't made that decision, I know that you won't understand until the Holy Spirit draws you to that. But if you think you see it, why not become a child of God for eternity? So that hell is not a scary thought for you. It scares me for others, but it no longer scares me for me. Amen? Why not join his kingdom, his armies? We just described God. We described the benefit package. Amen? Go back and read that again. There's some awesome stuff in there. So if God's moved in your heart today, come up and let's talk about it a little bit. Let's pray about it and see what God would have you to do next. Meanwhile, pray for each other and trust and obey and be happy.